IDW Sonic Comic Issue 47. Out of nowhere, it turns out the heroes are perfectly fine from falling from a huge height. And it's not like they're even shown landing on a bunch of stuff all in a row. They didn't land on anything that would break their fall. I knew they'd survive, but like this? And there was a river below them, apparently. It's times like this where I really wish the comic explained that the heroes had rings to protect them. That needs to be explained. It's the case in Archie. And while there's tons of slapstick in that comic, it's also got a lot to it, so I'm distracted enough by the constant plot developments and lore to not point out every time the slapstick should have been lethal. Why should I ever take them falling seriously again? Predictably, Tangle's tail is going to help them out. I mean, they could have at least gotten a little injured to pretend there was some stakes. She spins herself around with her tail and gets them all on top of the tree and thinks that was awesome, and wishes she could do it again. I do need her to lighten up the mood. It's too rare though. Belle thinks they're doomed. This makes the kid cry and she has to reassure him, which somehow works when it doesn't seem like she should be able to protect them. Tangle wastes my time talking redundantly, and finally the heroes go over the Cliché waterfall. Did they really need to go over a waterfall? I mean, to progress ahead, but it would actually be more subversive if they didn't make it to the waterfall and they got out of the river before we would see it. So why are the characters wearing masks? It's not the real world, and I doubt those masks are going to prevent smoke from going into them, or firemen would wear them. They look like just cloth masks, not oxygen masks. So the kid gets reunited with his father as the story continues being needlessly slow-paced for how basic the plot is. And he doesn't know how to thank Belle. Thankfully, once again, nobody attacks the Badnik, which is always a pleasant surprise since modern Sonic comics have the characters make stupid mistakes way too often. Amy says relatably that the motorboats are kinda cute when they're not trying to run you over. And I agree with the way its eye looks. How's it gonna survive? Jewel reminds him of the fire and wants the evacuation finished. Amy apologizes for getting her friends in danger and wants to fight the fire. The heroes take way too long talking redundantly, boring the hell out of me, and they even put their hands together. Can't Jewel just say her plan immediately? She tells Amy and Tangle to make a dam in the river. Tangle ties her tail around a tree. I always appreciate the writers finding new ways to make her tail useful. Amy hits the ground with her hammer, breaking it off, and then cause a flood. Belle saves someone, and they're told to break the dam. And somehow, Tangle's confused and says she didn't think that far ahead, when she should immediately have faith in Amy's hammer. And it's said that the water soaking the ground will stop the fire from spreading through the undergrowth. That's clever. It's not literally just that the water's going to be sent at the fire, and the trees are far apart enough at the camp to prevent spread through the canopy. So the heroes waste too much time celebrating, and Tangle happily quits the restoration. I'm kind of proud of the writer for resolving that plot thread, where she's naturally bored being told to do stuff she doesn't care about. Jewel then wastes my time some more, saying that she understands. She could just say, I understand, and leave it at that. The argument for this comic is usually that it's just for kids, and kids will like anything, but would a kid really read all of this dialogue? Would a kid read all of the dialogue when there's too much dialogue? I don't think so. She thanks her and they hug, as I really wish the plot had more plot and less padding, because it seriously makes the story boring. Which is a shame because the basic plot of Amy making that dam was new. I really think Sonic the comic had the better idea, having 3 stories or even 4 in most of his issues, because that forces stories to have faster pacing. Tails repairs Belle's hand, and we see the motorbug in his lab. So he has a pet motorbug now. I guess I like that the inside of his lab has yellow walls like his fur, but I'd honestly never imagined them to be like that. A lab's supposed to have walls that are gray or white. Tails wants to take a look at this little guy, as I really hope we'll actually learn why Badnik became a nice Nick. It definitely can't be that way on its own. Tails is even written to say that the robots that became good were all advanced models. Of course, it'd be cool if the reason that the Badnik was a nice Nick was because of Porker or Techno, but they wouldn't care enough to bring them into this comic like what happened in Sonic Legacy for Techno, because that'd be fan service. Belle likes the idea of making more nice Nicks. Can't the heroes just call them Nicenix already? But again, Eggman would destroy them immediately if he saw them making it obvious that they're Nicenix. Is it right for the heroes to reward the Nicenix by turning them into cannon fodder? And it's not a real Badnik if it doesn't have an animal trapped inside, a major unique hook for the Sonic series. Tangle's been recapping to Sonic, who's unhappy that he missed it. Amy points out that he wouldn't like getting dunked in a river anyways, and he agrees. Tangle says she's gonna find Whisper. Out of nowhere, she reveals that Whisper had asked her if she'd like to travel with her. The text box says that happened in Tangle and Whisper miniseries issue 4. I don't remember that at all, so it must have been really forgettable. Doesn't Tangle like adventure? Wouldn't she agree to travel with her immediately? Because who knows what dangers they come across along the way. Out of nowhere, Tangle says she was hasty in quitting the restoration, and she and Jewel are gonna try something new. But that won't be explained right away, because pissing off the audience is a good idea apparently. Aren't I frustrated enough? Why can't I just learn something immediately? Sonic tells her to let him know if she gets into anything fun, and she agrees. And I start to think that she had a way better dynamic with him than Sally did with Sonic. I'm guessing Jewel's gonna only hire her if there's an exciting adventure to go on. But if it was that simple, she should have just said that. Sonic mentions doctors, and she tells him not to jinx them. A guy looks at a burning tree and says this was no accident. And ends with us seeing the Chaotix. I still prefer the idea that Belle caused the fire by accident, because that was what was presented to me first, and it'd keep things simple instead of randomly introducing this new character. It's not a mystery who did it anymore, because we were told it was that character's fault, and I'd really like to be told why she started the fire right away instead of it feeling forced, because no one would have anything to gain from that. I say she because her silhouette reminded me of Blaze at first. It's not like they want to make room in the forest for farmland. If they were doing it to make people scared of Eggman so that he'd rule them again, then they would do it and explain to everyone why they're doing it. Not just make it look like it's an accident. If the Motorbug ran around the match on Belle's hand and put it out as soon as she was knocked out, and that's why we're supposed to believe that her match didn't cause any fire, then we should have been shown that. Then I'd have an actual reason to believe Belle. This issue by Evan Stanley was about Jewel telling Amy and Tangle to make a dam in the river below the waterfall they fell over to cause a flood that'll make a place too wet for fire to spread there. The whole camp is evacuated with no mention of a fire department existing, and there's no explanation for how anyone, including a normal kid, survived a huge fall off the cliff into a river and a fall from a waterfall. So we have to assume they had rings protecting them for the story to still work. At least I can say that the arc is a plot I never saw in Sonic before. That's always good. I don't know if the camp was even given a name. It's always good to have a new location for world building, but I'm not sure if we'll even see this place again. It's just a generic camp, so I don't really care. It feels convoluted and confusing that some villains caused the fire when they'd have nothing to gain from it. They didn't even reveal to people that they did it, just to have a story about it later.